Lesson 8-6, Inequalities. The main idea of this lesson is to be able to write and graph inequalities. Before we can start writing and graphing inequalities, we need to actually review what an inequality is. An inequality is these symbols: the less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and the greater than or equal to. And these numbers allow us, these symbols, allow us to compare two different numbers and be able to relate magnitude to them. The less than sign can also be worded as is fewer than. The greater than sign can also be said as is more than or exceeds. The less than or equal to sign can also be worded as is no more than or is at most. And the greater than or equal to can also be said as is no less than and is at least. Knowing the different words that represent these same symbols will be really important for today's lesson, and we're going to keep coming back to and reviewing these words here. So the first thing that we're going to learn how to do is we're going to write inequality for the following sentences. This is just like when we translated words into equations. This time we're going to translate words into inequalities. And the first example is a suitcase must weigh less than 40 pounds. And the things that I like to do is always to underline the important words. We have a suitcase, less than, and 40 pounds. So we're going to start by translating each one of these things individually. The first one is a suitcase. We don't know how much this suitcase weighs, but all we know is that it's a suitcase. So that means that we need to take this and represent it as a variable. And we could represent this as S for suitcase. Less than. So let's go back to our list of words here. We're going to find the word less than. We're going to see that it's represented by this symbol right here. So that means I'm going to draw it going this way. And then we have 40 pounds. I can represent that as 40 LBS, because LBS is the abbreviation for pounds. So that means the suitcase is less than 40 pounds. That means that the suitcase has to weigh less than 40 pounds. It has to be under 40 pounds. Here's our next example. You must be over 12 years to play. We have you, over, and 12 years. Those are our important words, and I've underlined them. So the first thing that we have here is you. We don't know who you is or how old you is, so we're going to represent that as a variable. And I'm going to write y for you. The next word is over. So I'm going to go to this list over here, and I'm going to look for the word over. And I don't see the word over. But when I think about the word over, I think that it has to be more than, or, oh, exceeds, is more than, is greater than. So I'm going to add the word over here to our list. So I'm going to use the greater than sign, and then I'm going to do 12 years. And here we have it, that the person has to be greater than or older than or have lived more than 12 years. So we've translated these sentences. We underline the important words, we go to our chart, and we translate them. Here we have a few more. You must be at least 40 inches tall to ride a roller coaster. So I'm going to underline the important words, you, at least, and 40 inches. So again, you we're going to represent with a variable. At least, I'm going to go to this list of words here, and I'm going to try to find the word at least. And it's right here. So that means it's the greater than or equal to sign. Greater than or equal to. And then 40 inches is 40 IN. So that means that the person has to be 40 inches or more in order to be able to ride the ride. That means they can be 40 inches, but they can also be 41 inches, but they can't be 39 inches. Here's our last one. You must be 12 years of age or younger to order from the children's menu. So you must be 12 years of age or younger to order from the children's menu. So let's think about this. Do we have any important words here that we saw over here? I don't see any of them, but let's think about this. You must be 12 years of age or younger to order from the children's menu. Can you be 12 years? Yes, you can be 12 years, but you have to be 12 years or younger. So that means you over here, you have to be less than, so that means you have to be smaller than 12, but you can also be equal to 12. And there we've translated that one. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to graph each equality on the number line. The way I like to remind students is, as long as it's written variable, inequality sign, number, in that order, variable, as long as it's written in that order, then we can use the inequality sign and we can imagine that it's an arrow instead of an inequality sign. And let me show you what I mean. Here we have n is less than 3. So that means I'm going to go here to my number line. I'm going to put a dot at 3. And now I'm going to pretend this is an arrow. So in other words, this arrow points to the left, right? So that means any number to the left will make this inequality true. But we need to talk about this circle here at the 3. Do we include the 3 in this or do we not? It doesn't have the or equal to sign underneath it. So that means that it can't include the number 3. So in order to represent that, you can put an open circle, which represents that we're going to start at 3, but we're not going to include 3. And any number that we find on this side of the number line will make that inequality sign, that will make this inequality true. But we don't want to include the 3 in that. Let's take a look at this next one. Again, this is n is greater than 3. So that means n is going to be bigger than 3. And in order to graph that on the number line, we don't want to include the 3. So again, we're going to use the open dot. But this time, imagine this is an arrow and it points to the right. So that means our line needs to go to the right. That means it's any number bigger than 3, but not including 3, will make this inequality true. Let's take a look at the ones where we have the or equal to sign with them. So, when we don't have the or equal to sign, we have an open dot. When we have the or equal to symbols, we're going to have a closed dot, and that says that we want to include the 3 in our answer. So again, pretend this is an arrowhead because it's written variable, inequality sign, number. It points to the left. So that means this inequality, in order to make this true, it could be any number that is smaller than 3, but includes 3. In this other one, n is greater than or equal to 3 means that we're going to have a closed dot, and if you pretend this is an arrow, it points to the right. So this means that in order to make this inequality true, it can include 3 or it can be bigger than 3. The way I remind students a lot of times is if they have to have an open dot or a closed dot is, first you're going to make a circle on the number line. And if it has the extra line, then you're going to do the extra work to color it in, because that extra line underneath the or equal to means that we're going to include that number. And not having that or equal to line underneath means that you're not going to include that number. That's everything you need to know about inequalities.